2023. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Oklahoma City Board of Appeals for Code. Can we have a roll call, Scott?
Here.
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 Thank you. The first item on our agenda is a motion to elect the board chair. And in light of the fact that we only have 4 people here, I thought maybe we could delay that, put that till the next meeting. Is that possible to do? I think so. Could you want to vote on it? Should we have a motion and a vote?
I'll make a motion that we delay the motion to elect board chair and vice chair until the next meeting.
Aye.
Second.
Or second.
So we have a motion and a second. You want to take a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
C.
Yes.
Motion passes to continue the vote for chair, vice chair to the next session.
So I believe everybody's received a copy of the minutes. Do we have any questions on the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second.
Yes.
Yes.
C.
Yes.
So our first case today is case number BOA-2022-00001. And this is appeal of Harding Independence Charter this case was a continuance of the last case that they had. The previous case was granting temporary occupancy till February 1st, 2023. This appeal, I'm trying to see where it is on here. This is an appeal of Stephen Stefanik, Superintendent of Independence Charter School, from a decision of the code official for noncompliance with Chapter 4, Section 423.4, the supplement of the International Building Code 2015 as adopted by the City of Oklahoma City, pertaining to the requirement or to the required storm shelters for 3232 Northwest 65th Street. This case was, as I said, previously approved for continuance with a provision to allow temporary occupancy of the classrooms through February 1st, 2023. Scott, do you want to give us the staff analysis, please?
Okay, the applicant's request pertains to the requirement that storm shelters be provided for all new buildings or structures incorporating an educational use group under the IBC 2015, Section 423.4. This requirement also states that storm shelter facilities must be provided with capacity to house the combined occupant load of the students and faculty with which the initial permit encompasses. The applicant has proposed the placement of modular classroom structures to house students on campus, but had no initial plans for adding storm shelters. The charter school here is currently leasing space on property from Oklahoma City Public Schools, right? And as such may be limited to their options for compliance. The occupant load for the classroom use Group E occupancy is calculated according to the IBC at 20 square feet net per occupant. The applicant has proposed one structure of 6,272 square feet, which when subtracted for restrooms and dead space gives us a total occupant load of 222 possible students. Not that you'll be perhaps using that many, right? The IBC then states that storm shelters ought to be constructed in accordance with the ICC 500, which states that there shall be enough room to provide for a minimum of 2 wheelchair spaces at 20 square feet each, with the remaining 219 occupant loads requiring 5 square feet each. This calculation thus requires that a storm shelter facility with free and clear floor space of 1,135 square feet be required to house the total combined occupant load of the new structure. The previous board ruling was to allow the use of the proposed modular classrooms through to February 1st of 2023 with permanent CO pending the certificate of occupancy of this required storm shelter. They received a temp CO for now, right? Okay. The plan review staff finds no language as listed in either the ICC nor the IBC, which we interpret to allow for the applicant's request to defer from the construction of the required storm shelters any further. Doing so may risk the lives and well-being of the occupants for which the code requirements are meant to save.
So is the applicant present? Would you mind coming to the podium, stating your name and address, please, for the record?
Hi, I'm Steven Stefanik. I'm the superintendent of Harding Independence at the location 3232 Northwest 65th Street for Independence Chartered Middle School.
You want to tell us a little bit about anything that's changed from when you were here last?
Yeah, we've had some progress, but obviously with construction also delays. And so you'll see a little timeline I had for you. We completed the 5th grade academy. That's where this came into effect officially on October 12th. Due to the delays with the permit, it also delayed the construction. So we did have students housed in a gymnasium for the first month of school. Right after that, we went and sought for an architect firm to begin the process of the safe room, which we did hire a gentleman behind me, Mr. Ben Smith, that's recognized as principal design. So I appreciate him being here today. And quickly, to my surprise, within 10 days, they submitted a building permit to the city of Oklahoma City, which is, in my experience, unheard of with architect firms being that quick on it, but they knew we had a timeline, had to act quickly. We did find out, though, that information was not given correctly and that charter schools are public schools by law, which means that we must follow the Oklahoma Competitive Bidding Act. And so it delayed the process a little bit on understanding, no, we have to go through that process to vet this decision with our Board of Governance. And so I think February 8th, maybe today, is it official today? As official today, it is up for bid. And obviously, you know that process is 21 days for the public, and then our board will open those and review them and pick one to satisfy that. But obviously, we won't be able to reach the February 1st deadline to complete the project. But you'll see right behind the deadline or the timeline that we have the sketch of the architect firm and what we are proposing to complete, which has been approved, to my understanding, from the city of Oklahoma City to go forward with that. In addition, there's another problem with this ordinance in regards to school districts, so just so you're aware of it, different from Mustang to us. It is not allowed by state education laws to use general operating funds for any kind of construction, which is why you see a lot of school districts use bonds to do such thing. Charter schools does not have the ability to do school bonds. We are not part of the Oklahoma City Public School $1 billion bond package. And so at the end of February, I will be going to the State Board of Education asking for a waiver, so that way we can do that. I have no reason that they won't support that because it's sort of, someone's got to give in order for us to accomplish this. But that's another avenue that we have to face in order to have general operation funds go to this project. So that's sort of our timeline. I will be honest, construction is not my forte, so that's why we hired an architect firm and such. So I put on here kind of an extension to April 30th, but if you'd like to ask the architect himself what he believes would be the timeline for completion of this project, he'd be more than welcome to answer that.
So you're out to bid today, as you're advertising today. So you have 3 weeks, probably. Are you using calendar days or business days or
The scheduled bid opening is March 8th.
March 8th? And by March 8th, you'll know from the state board whether or not you're going to be able to use your operating funds?
We hope so. I requested that in January, but with the changes in state superintendent leadership, we weren't put on their agenda in January, so I hope they put us on the agenda for February.
Okay. What are your, generally, when people come before our board, they come with equivalencies, something that would allow us to grant them a condition versus just changing the code, which we can't do. So do you have any fallback positions on any of this?
The only thing we had in June was talked about, we had a safety plan in the current school facility where those 79, I know at occupancy 221, but we only have 79 fifth grade students, so those teachers and students have a, it's not considered FEMA coded, but it's where all the rest of the students go into school for any emergency reasons for tornadoes.
And the classrooms are ready for occupancy now? I mean, you've been occupying them and using them?
That's correct.
Are there any questions?
For the architect, and so the submission of bids will be March 8th.
Correct.
And then have you guys put together any kind of timeline as to how long it's going to take
Generally,
to construct?
there's a 30-day period, and then we'll issue a notice to proceed to the awarded contractor. But that's going to be a general contractor. We don't create the schedule. That will be part of their bid, will be calendar days on the project, and could be considered as one of the qualifying, parts of the bid, if the school deems so. But we would not advise that they give a deadline on construction, because that's just, if we impose liquidated damages or something on contractors, that's just going to drive the cost up. So in terms of estimated completion date, I would expect that they could complete the job of this size, hopefully in 9 months, but I would say 9 to 12 months would be the estimated construction time. But as you know, with materials and everything being kind of a little on the fritz nowadays, it's hard for even contractors to make any promises.
Is this Ramtech the company that did the design for is it like a system?
No, this is just custom, from scratch, conventional construction. So it's concrete block. What was submitted here is all cast-in-place concrete. That has been changed via addendum for cost reasons. We're just going to go to concrete block, load-bearing walls, basically, and so no components, no fast-track options. It's likely the fastest way you could possibly get the thing built.
It's designed as a FEMA shelter, I take it?
It is not FEMA shelter, it is ICC 500 compliant.
Okay.
They do overlap.
For the superintendent, when is school out for summer?
School ends, I believe, May 18th. It's the third week in May sometime.
So during that time, between now and May 18th, what's the school's position, or how do they plan to shelter the students and the teachers during that time in case of a tornado?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an approved tornado kind of drill approved by the State Board of Education that we're accredited on, that they practice twice a year at minimum. There is a current location where those kids will travel. The picture right above you, I think y'all can see that. Can y'all see that picture? I'm sorry. You'll see the existing portable classroom. That's what, when you said Ramtech, that's who built the portable. Where that large building is on the south side of that picture, that's as far as they have to go to get into the main building to where the other students are going, which is about 10 feet, because we had to do a city ordinance of 10 feet away for fireproof walls. So not a large location. They do it every day currently to go to gym class and back and forth. The kids aren't housed in the gym, just trying to show you where they enter to the building. It's about 10 feet down a ramp for 79 students.
So that south building is the gym,
That is correct.
and that was not designed as a shelter originally?
It is not designed as a shelter. So it's hard to tell in the picture, but right north of that large gym, you'll start to see the school building. There are a bunch of hallways that you can't see from this picture where the students will be located.
And that's where the children from the portable classrooms will go into the hallways?
That's correct, with the other students as well.
And you've modified your program already, the written program and all that, to include these children? I mean, it's already,
Yes, I didn't bring that today because I brought it in June, kind of those changes, so I
Under-
apologize for that,
no,
but
that's
yes.
fine. Any questions? To not occupy the building.
The portable building.
If this is not approved and you cannot continue to occupy that portable building, what is your plan to house the students and teach their classes?
There is not enough space in that current building, so those 79 students would not have a school anymore.
Have you guys checked into the
You want to answer?
possibility of putting up temporary storm shelters?
We have, the price of those are $10,000 a month, which can up cost. The price of this, what we're proposing to build, is estimated with what he's given me, but obviously we don't have the bid yet, is $500,000. To do temporary plus a permanent structure, we would not be able to fund both of them at all.
Just so they have a better understanding. So on this, the request is that you want temporary occupancy permit until April 30th, right?
I can barely hear you, ma'am,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Your request notes a temporary occupancy permit until April 30th, and then school's out
May 18th.
mid-May, and then the construction of this is to be completed roughly 9 months from next month.
Yeah, I apologize for that date. That's me trying to just keep us accountable,
So, okay,
right?
that's what you were mentioning earlier, was just
Yeah.
like that. In reality, it's actually going to extend until the next school year, right? The fall.
Based on his recommendation, it would
It's-
be, yeah.
Okay,
Our goal at least would be, our board will submit a bid in March so that we can start that process with a general contractor,
right. So you're basically halfway there up to this point.
essentially.
It's like, yeah, okay.
And what about summer school and all that? Is that all done in the main building? Not,
It's all done in the main building, yeah. Summer school is only for students that need additional support, which is usually about 50 to 100 students, so they're in the main building.
So in reality, you technically would need occupancy that rolls into like, basically when this thing gets completed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
this time next year.
yeah, yeah, basically.
I think the idea is,
Okay.
like, I'd like
So,
you all to keep us
to provi-
accountable,
Right,
but we're going to keep going forward with it. It's just, there's been some delays and hiccups on it.
okay, gotcha.
How many temporary storm shelters would you need to have to occupy?
The ones I saw, Mustang, can I pick on you for a second? I think they held 20 kids each.
32 kids.
Yeah.
I think those are the ones I looked up that were about $10,000 a month. So you're looking at about 30, we need at least If they're 30, 4 of them, to just round up with the staff in them. So we're talking about $40,000 a month that we would have to use for them.
And you'd need those for basically 2 months, March, April, or 3 months, March, April, and May. Because you wouldn't have
If
to
I
have
can
them.
secure some donations, which we've currently are working on,
Yeah.
I have one securement of $100,000 from a foundation in the city, but that's to offset the cost of the actual structure. If I can get more, possibly, but financially, we wouldn't be able to do both right now. The $500,000, if you think about a school district, our full budget's $5 million, so 500,000, 10% of our budget's really hard to overcome when we weren't prepared for such.
I just worry about the couple of months, especially this spring, and possibly in the fall during the tornado or storm season when the kids won't be safely sheltered if there is a storm, at least from the portable building, which that's all we can work on now. We have no jurisdiction over the existing building, just the portable building ones. But I don't know what anybody else is.
And I know this isn't part of
Feeling
this
is on
board,
it.
but I think there needs to be further conversations, not with you all, but with the city. The school building itself is not up the kind of safe room code. So I think if this was a real initiative, it'd have to be a bigger avenue, because it says new construction, does not say existing
Exactly,
construction.
yeah. And that's why it was implemented for the new construction. There was no way they could have
Yeah.
had existing buildings brought up to code for that reason. Mike, you have any thought on this from the fire department?
Please come up to the mic if you do.
Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, if I had to get up, no, I don't have any comment. Our issue obviously is going now another year without any kind of storm shelter students. So I don't know that we could support a variance for another year. The issue was, thought we were gonna have something that would be, provide at least a safe shelter for them by now, so that during this storm season that's coming up quickly, there would be some type of shelter. So this is a good plan. I like that they're proposing a large shelter that can hold a lot of people. But as far as what the code requires for what was built before, which was the temporary classrooms, I really feel we need some type of shelter for them, those people.
For the people in there, yeah. And when, going back to Steve, when was temporary buildings completed?
They were completed beginning of October. We opened it up to students October 12th.
Okay.
And the temporary structure is completely full now. You've got how many students in there?
It's not completely full. I mean, completely full would be the 221 occupancy. Our goal is a maximum of 110 always in that building, just because of class sizes. So there are 6 classrooms with approximately 15 to 18 students each.
You want me to make one? I guess my main concern is still, since the middle of October, you've had the opportunity to look at the temporary building and try to find funding for that, which is the impression I believe we were under, that we were going to have something so that it would be implemented by the, end of March, maybe at the latest. I think we extended it to February 1st, but I think to go through another 9 months, Yeah, basically a year is to me, pushing the limits of what we can do and what we should do. Anybody else have any comments before I make my, Jim? And-
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just, you're kind of putting the board is really in a difficult position because we really don't have any equivalencies to look at. There's no plan to, take care of this. I mean, we've already granted one, variance, so there's no plan to take care of the immediate need. If we had something that we could look at and say, yeah, we think that's an equivalency, I think we could move forward. But just to, go ahead and delay it another year, I think is kind of outside the realm of what we can do,
Would the equivalency not be the current school facility?
Well, I don't know.
That's up to Scott, I don't think it is.
Well, I mean, obviously, there's been students there for years without a storm shelter, which is part of the conundrum, because the code only recognizes, in effect, the new students. But I mean, yeah, if your existing structure is not ICC, or FEMA rated, I mean, yeah, it's technically not equivalent to the storm shelter, of course. But yeah, I mean, it's the unfortunate conundrum of we're only looking to safeguard, 70 some odd students you're having, right? Compared to, hundreds of others that are there all full time. So the structures themselves, no, they're not, not the same, but I just don't know how you, remedy it.
I mean, if nobody else will, then I'm going to make a motion that we deny the extension. And I guess that would leave it up to Scott to do the temporary occupancy permit from there.
Second.
Well, I mean, if that's what the proper procedure is.
Yeah, I mean, because the existing state of affairs is they have a temporary occupancy for these classrooms right now. So if the board denies, this extension, the temporary occupancy would be revoked. They would not be able to use those classrooms. So,
That would be my motion.
My second.
So we have a motion and a second.
okay. Ann Weber?
Yay.
Yes.
Yes.
To deny? Right, okay. Kyle Lombardo?
Yes.
Jim Workwarder?
Yes.
And Ron Roque?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion to deny passes.
Something that they can get quicker. If you guys come up with the money to buy the temporary storm shelters and can come back and get with Scott, then that would alleviate having to come back to us again.
You've got a bid for construction. You're in the bidding process right now. So, in 3 weeks, you're going to have bids in hand. Is there,
On March 8th, we'll have bids in hand, and we'll scrub bids and go through and verify everything, correct? That'll be about 3 or 4 days, but middle of March, yeah, be looking at signing a contract.
Well, my thought was that, we wouldn't be extending out a whole year, maybe there's, some some way to expedite construction.
Well, I will say that from a construction perspective and a business perspective, they're going to move as fast as possible. They have no incentive to drag it on.
No,
And if you don't mind, I do have a comment.
Sure.
Code is written and it's very rigid, but there is a spirit of the code. And the reason it's not, you have to provide a shelter for every student, is because it's not practical. The reason it's written the way it is because a lot of school districts have options. Texas and California, most of the schools in the country can just write checks. California doesn't have a storm shelter issue. But the spirit of the code is to incrementally improve school sites because they don't go away. They're not Starbucks. They're there for a long time. So the spirit is to incrementally improve the safety condition of those facilities, which is what they're doing here. And so I understand there's a gap in the safety of those students. But the reality is none of those students are protected currently. And so this is a step in that direction. And hopefully in 10 years, 15 years, every school in the state will be able to house all of their students. But right now, we do a lot of small school districts. Their bonding capacity won't even allow them to build a classroom, much less a storm shelter. So I would just keep that in mind in terms of the scale of time on this subject matter.
No, I think you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
And we really, I mean, it breaks our heart to have to do this, believe us. The fact that, like you said, it was incremental, that's why when we originally granted this, we didn't go back and look at making the entire school have to be protected. And I happen to know that there really needs to be an effort to get the legislature to allow the smaller school districts like you're talking about to go ahead and increase their bonding capacity. Because they're not even doing that. There are states that actually fund these facilities for kids. And they use everything from the COVID funds to, whatever they have available, surpluses and things like that. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think everybody on this board agrees with you wholeheartedly. It's just, this board is not in a position to change the code. And that's also, I know it's in black and white, but that, the spirit of the code is that no one person can just outright change it, other than the authorities having jurisdiction. So it's well taken, and we appreciate your comment.
Very much so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, once they take away the building permit, you're going to have 79 students lose a school. It's going to cause a lot of other problems. So here's my proposal to you. I'm going to do the best I can, okay? But school ends May, right? Extend it to that timeline. There's no students there June and July, and a few weeks. Actually, the calendar year next year is delayed in schools because it's a leap year. And I try to expedite this to be done by August before the school. If not, I have a backup plan. I can put those children in the gym. Parents aren't going to like it, but that's an option. But I do know if I do that right now, they're just going to de-enroll anyway because they didn't like it to begin with. But they'll understand if there's a delay in construction, they see it just like they did in August this year. So that would be my proposal to you.
So you're proposing to revisit and extend it while you move the children into the gym for the moment?
No.
You said that you could sell that to the parents, is that what you're meaning, or?
I'm proposing to extend the deadline of this completion to the end of school year, because June and July, I don't need the occupancy of that building, right? There's no students in it. So really, it's a delay to July, but you as a board only have to say to May, because I don't need your occupancy in the summer months for that building. So it gives me an extra 2 months on top of till May to complete this project. And then me, with the help of Ben, once I get a general contractor, we can do a little barking to try to get it expedited as fast as we can. We can't control material costs and such, but we can try to expedite it. So that's just a proposal. Or I will have to tell 79 students the moment I get that email that their school is shut down with 6 teachers that are on contract that we will not be able to pay for anymore.
So, it sounds like you have a way you can move them into the gym now, is that?
We can't currently because you have other operations going on in the school year. But when you start a school year, you have limitations on what's going on in the gymnasium, right? So you're talking about a school that has extracurriculars, all those kind of activities. You're going to chaos the entire school, and I just can't do that to our kids.
Well, it still leaves in the fact that the most opportune time for bad weather to hit is March, April, and May here. And those are the times that I'm worried about. I mean, if this was in, you know, if we were looking at having to do something like this in June, July, and August when nobody was around, that's one thing. But with the kids in there, and since I'm the one who made the motion, I guess it was up to me to amend it. And if somebody else wants to amend it, that's fine, but I don't want to at this time. But that doesn't mean anybody else can't amend it if they want to. I understand where you're coming from, and it is tough. You know, I don't know whether, you know, in hindsight, starting to look for something in April instead of a permanent solution with a temporary one. But that doesn't make any difference now anyway. Scott, anything on that you can come up with or think of?
I mean,
To help.
now
I mean, I'm
obviously,
trying to-
the argument of whether or not to give the extension for the next 3 months, of course, is the main one here. But if, you know, if the board doesn't see fit to give them the 3 months here in the immediate future, I don't know if you'd want to at least amend the denial to give them temp CO over the, you know, the summer and the fall. You know, I mean, if the worry is mainly about the storm season here, you know, okay, that's one argument. But, you know, after summer, when they're going to have, a few months at least in the beginning of the year without the storm shelter installed all the way, right?
But they're not occupying the temporary building then during
Well,
the summer. And that's all we can control. is
well,
with the
because you're
temporary
going
building.
to be looking to occupy these temporary, these classrooms next fall as well, correct? Okay. So even if they deny the next 3 months, you'd probably want them to at least, or them and us, you know, to at least give you a temp CO for the classrooms for the fall, correct? I mean, to at least get something, but,
I mean, if the worry is the 3 months that you're referring to, you have to give me time, because I have to research it and go to my board, but the board's gonna have to do a temporary kind of situation for 3 months at least, until May, when the students are not in this occupancy. That's an option.
And that would be up to Scott on the temporary occupancy permit on that. We're just saying we're not going to extend the variance, which the temporary occupancy is part of it, but we don't give temporary occupancy. That's up to the city. Is that correct, Mike?
yeah, come to the mic there.
Sure.
Lou Falsetti, I represent the district. If the concern is the safety of the kids, okay, we have to look at this as a whole, okay? We have a building that has 300 people in it now, okay, that if a tornado came through, we have another building that has 85 or so people in it that you're telling us we can't do because we have to have shelter for them, but not the others. Well, if they're in the same boat, you're treating kids differently. We take those kids, we put them in that building. Now they're in the same boat as the other kids. Everybody's together. You're treating everybody the same. You're not discriminating against these kids over those kids, okay? So I don't understand why then, in the temporary until at least through May, if something should happen, okay, that there would be something wrong with putting those kids in the 5th grade into the main building where those other kids already are, and they'll be secure. If that's okay, why isn't that okay to give the extension through May? And then if we need to go in the summer, when there's 2 months we don't have any students in the building, if it gets to near August, or we're starting to get close to that, and then for whatever reason there's a construction issue, you know, and the things aren't getting timely done, then we would most likely have no other choice but to get the temporary shelters. But again, we're a charter school. We don't have a whole bunch of money, and we cannot bond. We're not allowed to by law, so we have to try to get permission from the district board to use our general funds to pay for that. Well, then we could do that. We can put 4 or 5 temporary shelters in August, so we'll have those covered. It won't cost us, how many months that is, 5 months, $200,000 or more just for the temporary ones. It only costs us a couple $100,000 because we won't need them for as long. So I don't understand, to me, why we then can't say we could put these kids with those kids, everybody's in the same safety boat, okay? And that would be a problem for 2-3 months, okay? Because technically, I know we're all in a bind here, okay?
But we're talking about 80 kids, and not just kids, families, that now have to find somewhere where their kids can go. Now, if this was the beginning of the year, we might be able to use a gym because it's not already taken care of. There's not programs, there's not curricular activities going in there, there's not basketball games going in there, or whatever else in there. So we can't put them in there because then that messes up, just not our school, all the other schools that would come to use the facility in a game, say. So we can't do that. But I don't see what the problem would be or the difficulty if we put the kids in the main building where the other 300 people are. Now they're all in the same, under the same thing. If that's okay, why wouldn't this be okay?
Well, to answer your question, the code was adopted by the city. The code is the code, and that's what we all have to abide by. Now, I can tell you right now, the state is looking at, in their adoption, that it'll have to be retroactive for the entire school. So the case that you just described would not happen in the future because they're going to make you build a shelter for the entire population of the school. We did not do that in this case because at the time, it wasn't really the way it was required by the city. The state didn't actually have that portion of the code in place at that time. So and again, we understand it doesn't seem to make sense that some of the children are treated different than the others. But this is a variance board to give you a variance to the code. It's not to grant you more time to do, the project's been going on for a year now, or so. It's since July, I guess, maybe, 8 months. And we're no closer to satisfying the requirements of the code than we were, a little closer, but about halfway through the process. And believe me, if any of us up here could snap our fingers and change it, we probably would, but that's not what this board's for. This board is to grant a variance to the.
I understand that, because we're all in the same boat here. But the law you talk about, what the state's going to do, they're also going to fund it. There's a talk that they're not going to just do it, a mandate, and that they're going to fund it.
You know more about
That's
it
what
than
they
I
say.
do.
That's what they
You
say.
know more about it than
Assuming
I
they're going to
do.
require it. What we're talking about here is a limited amount of time, and not to downplay it or to minimize it, but if you look at history, I've been here for 40 years. That area has never been hit with a tornado, ever, in all those years, okay? It's always other ways around the city. So, yeah, you run the odds, you run the risks, but so are those 300 kids that are in that other building. So we're going to have these kids safe. That building gets hit, they die. We got the 80 kids here that are still alive.
Okay.
I understand you're kind of a bind, but I think if you're allowed to give an extension, this is the case where you could give the extension till the end of May. If you can do an extension at all, okay, because then another 3 months, because when we were here last time, we were told, come back if you need more time. We came back because we need more time. Because we can't, with all the construction and everything else that's going on in the world, we can't get everything accomplished in time, okay? And we're asking for 3 months. To put them, and if something happens, we put them in the same building 300 other people are in. That's all we're asking. And you have the power to grant an extension, obviously. That's all we're asking.
Well, I don't remember the process saying that come back if you need more time, because I think the way I remember it and the way it was written in the last board case that, I think I can read it right from, have you got it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was,
It's right up here. At which time the temporary.
yeah, it says this case was previously approved for continuance with a provision to allow temporary occupancy of the classrooms through to February 1st, 2023, at which time the temporary CO would be revoked or the new storm shelters would be in place. No exemption was granted for a reduction in the occupant load or the square footages. So it was our impression that it was going to be, you were either going to have something in place
Not come for another
or it would
extension.
end up being revoked like it.
Stand up here.
Sorry. Two things occurred. One thing is, this project is delayed not just because of us, but 6 months from the city not informing of this as a code, which is why you got it in June. We were not informed in January last year, okay?
Right.
So if we think about 6 more months, we could have been done by now, but we had 6 less months to complete it. The second one is, you are right, it's not in your minutes, But you and I personally had a conversation right here on saying, if you need support, come back. It's fine, it's not in writing, I'm not, okay?
Can we move on?
So, that's fine.
What we're talking about is being reasonable and being, if you can, what's the point of being able to extend if in the circumstances where it's actually needed as badly as this is, you don't do it? There's no reason to have that power then. You have that power, correct? Am I not, I'm incorrect, right? So we're asking you to exercise.
He's got the power.
So,
Not us.
so Ron, you were saying earlier that potential, so you're asking for just the 3 months, right?
Yes.
Personally, I know that this is going to be unpopular, but, and I understand the situation that you guys are in. I would amend it. I mean, but that's just me. I don't know if everyone's going to do that, but like, you know, I would amend it for the 3 months, and then you guys do what you need to do to get this done. If you need to come back again, maybe this is kicking it down, the can down the road, I don't know. But I also understand that there's life safety risk. This is what this is all about, too. Nobody wants to have their name tagged, even though a tornado hasn't hit that area ever, maybe. Nobody wants their name attached to that. I still understand that, like, this is, you guys are doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's taken a really long time. This is, you know, you're going down the path, and I would like to amend it.
So, Ann Weber with motion to amend?
You make the motion.
What do I say? Like,
So you'd like to amend
I'd like to amend.
Okay.
To say,
We have a
grant the 3 months.
Oh, grant the 3 months.
amend to 3 months.
Amend
grant
the
to
3 months,
okay.
yeah.
You need to rescind the previous.
Right.
Yeah, we need a motion to rescind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
motion to rescind that motion, that thing.
Mhm.
And we need
Okay.
a second.
So motion to rescind.
So we've got Ann Weber with a motion to rescind the previous vote. Do we have a second?
Well,
I
here's-
guess that, yeah.
No, hearing no second. So the motion to rescind fails, the existing motion to deny remains. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but you're,
Well, I understand, and I'm trying to keep it, you know, but I don't get it. I really don't. If we have 80 kids in one building, and right next to it, 100 feet away, we have 300, you're condemning them for the sake of these, when we can put them all in the same boat, which would be okay, because nobody, if they're all in the same boat, then we're complying with the law. We are complying with the law, okay? And then we're complying with the ordinance. So that's all we need to do. Why you can't extend it until the end of May under that condition is beyond me. I don't, and then you're gonna throw 80 kids and families out of a school.
you know, ultimately, and this is the discussions we have on another board I'm on, the responsibility for the safety of the children is the schools. You know, that's obvious. And the school board takes that responsibility. So the school board can still act to do some things to make sure that the safety of the children is taken care of. And that's why in the other board that I'm on, the arguments about, you know, these children are not safe and these children are, that's where it's fallen up till now. And probably this next year, we're going to have these same arguments at the state level about these storm shelters, because it's a real hot topic.
So here's what we're basically saying. We have a gym. It's not safety, okay, but it's been there for years. We take these kids, we put them in that gym. What have we accomplished? Nothing. We have accomplished absolutely nothing, right? I mean, come on, we have not accomplished anything.
We're not arguing with you.
So if we were able to do that, okay, storm's coming, the kids are in the gym, okay? We bring them into the gym when the storm's coming. They're in the same thing if they were in there for class, but we still don't have the safety buildings while we're trying to get the buildings. It's a distinction without a difference. And it makes actually no sense when you have the power to make it make sense by just giving the extension until the end of May. That's all we're asking. And you have that power. But okay, I assume we're not going to exercise it. All right, thank you.
So the next case, I gotta find it, sorry. It's case number BOAB 2022-00002, the appeal of Charles Bradley, Superintendent, Mustang Public School District, from a decision of the code official for noncompliance with Chapter 4, Section 423, supplement of the International Building Code 2015, as adopted by the City of Oklahoma City, pertaining to required storm shelters for 9201 Southwest 59th Street, Prairie View Elementary School. This case was previously approved for continuance with provision to allow temporary occupancy of the classrooms to February 1st, 2023, at which time temporary CO would be revoked or new storm shelters would be in place. Staff analysis, please.
Staff analysis? Sorry, 1 second. It's not working here. Okay. So the applicant's request pertains to the requirements of storm shelters, for storm shelters to be provided for all new buildings or structures incorporated in the education e-use group, the 2015 IBC. This requirement also states that storm shelter facilities must be provided with capacity to house the occupant load, combined occupant load of the students and faculty for which the initial permit encompasses. The applicant has proposed the placement of modular classroom structures to house students on campus, but had no initial plans for adding storm shelters. The occupant load for the new classroom group E use is calculated according to IBC at 20 square feet per net per occupant. The applicant has proposed one structure for each location, both cases BOA 2 and BOA 3, with 1,266 square feet of classroom space, which gives us a total occupant load of 64 each. The IBC 2015 states that storm shelters are to be constructed in accordance with the ICC 500, which would require 325 square feet of storm shelter area. In addition, of course, the IBC 2015 does not allow for the permitting of temporary uses, or does allow, excuse me, for the permitting of temporary uses when approved by the building official. It has been the policy of Oklahoma City Plan Review to deny these requests, being that all building permits are seen as permanent once issued, and as there is little to no means of enforcement triggered after a permit receives certificate of occupancy. The plan review staff finds no language is listed in either codes, which we interpret to allow for the applicant's request to defer construction of a storm shelter while pending the possible certification of existing facilities, which they believe are storm shelters, or of course with adding new storm shelters as we've recently done in the recent months. But the plan review staff has allowed for the construction of the classrooms to begin while yet holding the permanent certificate of occupancy pending these storm shelters or engineer certification.
Chairman Lombardo, members of the board, my name is Jason Pittenger. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Operations for Mustang Schools. Superintendent Bradley couldn't be here. We missed the February 1 deadline. We don't have shelters in place. I've gone through 10 vendors, and I have a pretty detailed communication log of our steps to rectify our situation. You would be, I think general public would be really surprised as to how difficult this process is. And I think it warrants a larger conversation at the legislative level, to kind of help find school districts like ours that are really in predicaments. That's, what can you do? It's illegal this way, it's illegal this way. I've become a little guru on storm shelters. There's commercial shelters, there's residential shelters. I've talked to people in North Carolina, Minnesota, Texas, Oklahoma. Like I said, I'm on my 10th vendor. No one has, very few people have, should say, in my research, shelters that they can just ship, transport, and set on site. Anchoring mechanisms, does it have a pad? Does it need a pad? No pad, is it heavy enough? Is it FEMA, is it ICC 500? Oklahoma engineering stamp, yes, no. There's a lot of details for an assistant superintendent that doesn't have an engineering background nor a construction background to navigate. Having said all that, I also don't have $500,000 at my disposal to solve this problem, and I don't think Harding does either. So that throws in another level of challenge for all of us. So my challenge was solve the problem as soon as you can, as cheap as you can. So that took me down the road of 10 vendors. And I'm here to report to you today that I found a vendor that's local, Oklahoma stamped engineer. Okay, so we checked that box because that was an issue in Minnesota, North Carolina. They have shop drawings, spec sheets that make sense, people can understand. They have an engineer willing to oversee the implementation and set process of the shelter. Prefab construction is concrete, prefab concrete on a concrete slab that will have another vendor pour and set to specifications. My target date from the company, they're out of Drumright, Oklahoma, is March 24th, which is a Friday. And we're in spring break right before that, so kids aren't there the week before. And that's at one school. That one school is Prairie View. That's the only one I really care about right now because I've got a class of 5 students in my portable that's at Valley. So 5 students, bringing them into a school building is much different than 50 students. So the one, Prairie View, they can deliver and set the shelter on the 24th of March. The 21st of April is when they can have it done for Valley. But I'm not worried about Valley, right? We want to revoke that TO.
Oh, sorry.
We can pull those kids inside. I'm not worried about that one. I'm more concerned about Prairie View, because I've got 2 portables, 25 kids and a teacher that I'm going to have to put. I can't put them in a gym either. I'm looking at cafeteria space, counseling offices. That's a problem yet to solve, depending on the outcome today. So I guess my request is then, we didn't meet the February 1st target. If we can get an extension through the 24th of March for one school, that's what I'm asking for. Again, this is one of those things where it's been arduous and extremely difficult trying to solve this problem. So if we get the extension, fantastic. Follow up the 24th, we ask for permitting to come out and look at the shelter and all of that business with Prairie View Elementary. Again, if you revoke the TO that's at Valley, that's fine. I think those kids, I don't even know if those kids are still meeting in that portable right now. So that's essentially what we're asking for. I think the shelter specifications, we're going to have 2 shelters at each building. So we'll have 2 separate individual shelters that are, I want to say, 20 by 8. So 4 shelters total, 2 at Valley and 2 at Prairie View. And all the accompanying, potential plumbing, potential electrical, water, sidewalks, fencing, all the other ancillary considerations that come with putting kids in a shelter. So that's kind of where we are. If you have any questions, be more than happy to answer any specific questions.
So, Scott, when was this case heard originally?
This one was in October,
Actually, in August.
or
the first
August,
time.
excuse me,
Yeah,
yes.
first time.
both about the same time.
Yeah, no, the charter school was in June, and this one was in August, you said, so.
Pretty close.
And again, I think our portables were delivered and set on site before we were informed the need for shelters. So again, we didn't really have that lead time as well. And again, when you don't have the money and there's a lot of questions, it takes time, but I think I'm a guru at it now.
So the contractor that you have lined up has everything here basically and in stock and ready to go, and once you give him the go, he'd be able to,
They're actually manufacturing them right now. We
Okay.
placed the order, I don't know what the date
you've already
was.
placed the order, whether or not
Right.
we get this or not, you're gonna do this anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't really make any difference, but.
If I may, do you recall, have you all submitted permits for these two with the city? I think they have.
I'm not sure. Austin with Cade Construction, probably, if you look for an email from him, that's who it would be from.
Okay.
Who
No,
would be doing
I think we
that.
did have a permit with you guys in the system already. Okay.
They may very well not have pending the outcome of today, simply because are we going to need to expedite this and take advantage of the shipping date and the delivery date that they've assured us they could do? Or is it, do we tell them, hey, pull the lead off, let up a little bit, you've got some time? Because I have no idea what other orders they've shifted to meet our deadline.
And again, I don't know where we're at in either of the permitting processes, because I know my staff's doing the reviews, but if we do have a permit in the process or corrections required, either party here, of course, please let me know directly, and we will have them both expedited as much as possible on our side.
I'll make a note and double check on that.
Protected in some way that the city would agree is an equivalency. Would you agree that we could extend the other thing until the same time? We're going to get in trouble. I think
Excuse us a second. Somebody else? I said somebody else want to say something.
we wanted to have a minute to talk amongst ourselves.
Oh, you're going to include me.
Mustang Trails project, Trails and Valley. That was my first job I ever did. Back in 2000.
So while they're deliberating a little bit. Yeah. You have to do it through the mics, okay.
Sorry. We were just discussing, since you both are in the same position, and Mike, I think we would like to hear from you on this particular case as well. We would like to know what your thoughts are on this. If it's the same, it's the same, but we'd like to hear from you on the record, if we could. You have to
Means you have to stand up
You have to
again.
stand up.
Again, I don't want to. That was the reason we had for approving it previously, was that we thought we would get something by this time so that it would be in place for the storm season. March 24th may not be too bad because it's not that far away, still early. April's worse. May is even worse. June is worse. You know, the storm, as the storm season goes. So it's a different situation, but it's the same kind of issue, is that they've added classroom space, and by the code and by the state requirements and the city council mandate, we want to have storm shelters. If you're going to add classrooms, we want to have storm shelters for those additional students. And it's up to the district to decide if they want to protect one kid or 100. But as far as the code goes, trying to be reasonable with what is being built, they decided to only require shelters for what was being built. So again, like I say, the request to March 24th may not be too far away, honestly. And then we'll have storm shelters there for the number that we need. I mean, on the overall look at it, the school district needs to look at just having a shelter, much like most all the Oklahoma City schools have gone in and built gymnasium storm shelters, you know, at the schools. They just need to keep doing that. They only did it at the schools that they were using. That's just something that needs to be looked at on the school district basis. So the Prairie Valley, which was the first one, right?
Prairie View.
Prairie View, Valley is the other school. Prairie View, I don't know, how many classrooms did they actually had? Just one modular building that had two classrooms in it?
Correct.
And then at Valley,
Same thing.
same thing, one building that had two classrooms in it. So it's very limited as opposed to the other case that we had where they, I don't know if it was 5 or 6 pieces, you know, to make that modular classroom they had. It was a lot larger student load. Again, it's up to the board if you feel that's appropriate. It's not, for us, you know, fire safety, life safety, that stuff's still gonna apply. That won't matter. You know, this is just during a storm event, if something happens, that they have someplace to go. And I don't know what the school does now, as far as if something happens, I'm sure they don't leave them out in the portable. They come in the main building somewhere and there's a safer area. May not be fully compliant safe room. But again, the timeframes, if it's completed, you know, in a quick time frame, the way that that's been explained, I think it would probably be okay.
Thank you.
I do have one other question. Since we've gone down virtually every road trying to skin this cat, so to speak, if I have Valley Elementary and I have currently 4 portables there, 3 that were placed in the early 2000s, and then the most recent one who was placed right before this starting school year. And of those 4 portables, I've got 1 that's new and 3 that's old. I've only got 1 class in one of those portables. The other 2 are used for storage. If I were to remove those portables, it's no net increase in square footage of the site. Would this code apply?
Because
In
it's
fact, we would be decreasing square footage.
Proposed construction
Yeah.
of a classroom, then they're gonna be looking at having a storm shelter for that occupant of that classroom. Now, if we didn't use the new shelter and you just put classrooms in the existing portables that you already have there.
We wouldn't, because they're old. That's my point.
But there wouldn't be a building permit then, and it wouldn't come into play.
Or the new building permit would be converted to storage, if that's what you're intending to.
No,
to do
we
there.
would want to use the new one to put kids in,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be an increase in square footage of the school.
But you're still building a new,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Thanks for the clarification.
All based on that, the use
Okay.
of the new structure.
Right, new structure, okay.
So Scott, is the city in any position to look at a written plan that would allow either one of these groups to show that they are accommodating the safety of the children, whether that is, in the event of a storm, 24 hours notice or something like that, maybe they just evacuate or they don't let the kids come to school. Has anything like that ever been considered?
Yeah, nothing like that's been considered. I know the city doesn't have any type of a plan or procedure for anything like that. We've already somewhat talked about the conundrum with the board or the conundrum with the city itself. We have to remember back that it was the city council themselves, the city council members back in 2014, after the last major May tornado with the loss of life there. They were the ones that actually insisted for this to be in the code themselves under their direction. So it's always been a little bit of a conundrum for both parties here, and obviously it's been a difficulty for people, folks on your side. But it puts us in a position that it's very difficult for us to defer from the requirement because we don't know. We don't have much more information on their intent during those city council hearings back in 2013, 2014. And nothing additional was written into this to allow for procedures or programs or other alternate means. So that's where we're at. But no, I mean, right now and historically, we've not had any other policies, procedures, plan of action that we've ever seen or that we've ever even proposed on our side. But I'm just not even sure it'd be possible.
The reason I asked was because, Mike, there's a lot of times where we use engineering modeling and it's a written plan to, demonstrate that something's going to work, and that's mathematics. It's a mathematical model. I was just wondering if there was anything that might be able to be considered by either of these groups that would be looked upon in the same light, even though it wasn't a mathematical model, that would give them the relief they need for at least the 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously something that they should be pretending to the board that they've had these procedures and they have these other places that are maybe 99% a storm shelter, but not totally a storm shelter. But it's got the, whatever other safety factors they have. And that's, on previous cases, that's actually what we've tried to get them to show or provide you that they have something. It may not be a fully compliant storm shelter with, bathrooms and ventilation and all the other stuff that goes along with that. But we understand that for the most part, we're talking about a tornado event. And those are not long-lasting events. It comes and it passes through and then you're digging through the rubble at the end. So you're not going to be in there for a long time. That what we've always felt is the way that the storm shelter code is actually written, it seems like they intend that people are going to be in there for a while. But the biggest issue obviously is structural collapse. I mean, obviously the structural strength of the building is the biggest factor for us. So I would honestly welcome that if they were to show the board and show some type of alternative protection and method that they would be able to employ to provide for those students, that would be something you can use in your decision.
We would be happy to do that. We weren't informed or asked to do that, but we can do that. It doesn't change the code. Even if we have a hardened area within the building with a capacity of 900, it's not ICC 500 because it doesn't have a concrete lid. We had KFC engineering come out and look at it. It's going to cost us $500,000 to create an ICC 500 storm shelter there, which is on a bond proposal, right? I mean, we're looking to do that, but Even with Mustang's bonding capacity, I can't just say $500,000. And so it is a process. And yeah, we were here in August. I don't know, I guess, my recommendation to people coming into this is plan on at least a year to get through this process to find a solution. Because if you can't find a vendor, right, the money's gonna be an issue. And then you're looking at potential supply chain shortages, steel, everything else. We've all experienced that. You guys are aware of that. It's just been an arduous process, but yeah, that's what we do right now with the kids that are currently there. If there's a storm event, they come into the main building, into one of our 3 areas of refuge. So,
What do you do if there's the National Weather Service is highlighting a severe storm event in the next 48 hours or 24 hours? Do you ever call school off?
yes, we've done that. Yes. In fact, one of my primary responsibilities is to be weather aware. National Weather Service puts out a webinar when weather events come through, as recent as last week with the ice storm. When tornado season gets here, we know when we're weather aware days. We'll listen to the webinar, meet 11:30 or noon, and kind of talk about what our afternoon plans are, from everything from, bus routes to do we, terminate school at 2 o'clock and leave early? Do we push out to parents, hey, come pick your kid up if you're concerned about a weather event moving in? What assistant principals are notified, hey, be weather aware, turn the TV on, somebody monitor the weather. We drill, we're required by state law to drill tornado and shelter precautions. Those are, we're in a situation where we don't want any kid in a situation where they're going to get hurt in any way, shape, or form with any kind of weather event. Every new school we've built since Prairie View, I would say, Meadowbrook has a shelter, Riverwood has a shelter, Central Middle School has a shelter. It's just something we do now with new buildings. This is one of those things where adding square footage with a portable, there was a moratorium in place, so that kind of led to the confusion, I believe. I think we all want to do the right thing. It's just, school districts don't have a lot of flexibility to be able to solve these problems in ways that work for school districts. So we're just trying to do the best we can with whatever's available to us. So again, with Prairie View, I've got an estimated delivery date of March 24th. So I thought I would come and give you an update on the progress and let you know where we are. And if we could stay where we are now and not disrupt those 2 classes, that would be fantastic and ideal for student learning. If you tell us we got to be out by this afternoon at 3 o'clock, I go back and we're out by 3 o'clock, and we're looking at other spaces that are not ideal for learning until March 24th, where we can get a shelter and get the city back out to permit it and reoccupy those spaces.
How would do they have it? That's going to help anything on them? Gives them a chance to move the kids around.
Are there any other comments? Any other questions?
Okay. One of the things that, and it may open up a whole new can of worms again, if,
That's what we need.
but I'm used to it. If, and that's the big word, if we would grant you the 24th, I would think we need to go back and grant them at least till the 24th. That gives you time to move your kids or whatever, instead of having to do it immediately. I don't think extending yours to the 24th would allow you to bring in a new building, but it gives you, whatever that is, 44 days for the school to come up with some kind of plan to do something.
We haven't talked a whole lot yet, but I plan on sharing my due diligence with it.
Well, I'm just saying, you had said if you do that, there, you'd have to go back and it gives you 44 days to come up with a plan. More so than.
Your situation is so much different just because of your funding.
Yeah, and they've already got something coming that's going to be here, and that, I mean, that weighs a lot with us. Yours is still, no matter what, going to be out, 9 months at the earliest. I understand, but it's still something.
I'm not sure if ours will be temporary. I think they'll be permanent. I mean, we're gonna pour a slab and anchor those babies, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
They're not a
Yeah.
rental or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nope. Yep.
Do I hear a motion?
Second that motion.
Did you hear one?
I didn't make one
Asking-
yet.
I can't, I'm not even on. I
you
can't make
said.
Okay. I'll make a motion on the application number
It's 002.
number 2, 2022-0002, for the Prairie View Elementary, that we extend temporary occupancy to March the 24th. The other one's a separate case, so we'll have to just do that separately.
So the first motion is Ron. Do we have a second?
I made the motion, yeah.
Second.
Who was the second?
Oh, second.
Ann?
I can't.
Okay. Kyle, what's your vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And Jim?
No.
No? Okay. So I believe we previously established that we need all 4 votes to
Yeah,
pass.
yeah, I'm sorry, but it's denied. We needed a quorum.
All 4 votes.
All right. Knew that was gonna be a possibility.
What now?
No.
I was going to say that if there was any way we could extend you more time, even to the 24th, but it doesn't look like we're going to have the votes to do that today. I would encourage, both of you, if you can work with the city to come up with an alternative that the city would agree to bring to us, and it may be, we've had, even though there were mathematical models, we've had written plans before that we've accepted as alternatives to specific problems that have to do with fire and things like that. And again, this would have to be something that's negotiated with the city, that they would consider an equivalency and would want to stand behind and recommend to this board.
Procedurally, if you want to allow case number 1 to come back, you should rescind the denial.
Right.
Continue it, so that they can come back next month without having to reapply.
Right.
Because on this case, a lack of 4 votes either way, approval or denial, will continue.
We'll continue it. Okay. Won't have a quorum to do it. Yeah.
Have 4 affirmative or 4 for denial.
Okay.
Okay.
So with the current vote we've taken,
Yeah,
board case number 2 is continued.
it's automatically continued
Okay.
till next month.
And do we wish to speak on board case number 3, which is the Valley?
Valley.
Yeah.
And it's
I'll make a motion that we deny it.
Do you have any further arguments on your side for them? So Ron Roque with the motion to deny.
Second.
Second.
And with the second to deny, okay. And Kyle?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to deny passes. Now, with what you mentioned, they still need to continue this, correct?
Well, what I,
I was
Or-
cautioning you, if you deny 4 votes for denial, then they really have no justification to come back and explain more.
Well, I guess I should have offered you a chance to continue.
He's not worried about it.
But
okay, well, I was under the impression, since he really wasn't worried about the other one, there was only a couple kids in it, we'll leave my motion the way it is, and then if you want to ask the other ones to reevaluate their,
Would you like to continue your case, I guess?
I
The
just
second one.
wanted to come and say, March 24th is an ETA for the school I'm most concerned with that would be most disruptive to student learning. The other one, we can pull that class out of there. However, when it's delivered April 21st, I would assume we would just go through the permitting process to get stamp of approval of the permit, and ICC 500, et cetera, and then we get a permanent CO at that
Right.
time.
Correct, yeah.
That's going to be much less disruptive for that school.
It'll be a lot more efficient. You won't have to wait for this meeting. Yeah.
At least
So-
on that one, yeah. Okay. So we'll just leave the denial for Valley?
Okay, and a continuance for Prairie View.
Yes.
What does that mean in terms of the temporary occupancy now?
Well, for the moment, the temporary occupancy is going to be rescinded for both properties, as you guys both know now. I'd like to speak with you both together after this meeting,
Okay.
and we can see if there's any other further options going up, speaking with city management. Okay?
Okay. Anything else?
Now, I think we need to re-vote on permit number 1 to allow the extension. Did you guys wish to have your case continued?
Well,
Well, no, not the extension, but to continue the case, excuse me. You're denied, but it allows you to come back if anything changes.
Are you talking about that meeting we call the plan? That would be her?
Yes, that way you wouldn't have to pay another $100 to, reapply for another board case. Okay, so so you're, true, yes. So it sounds like, is it Harding, right? Harding would like to continue their case.
And they'll continue under the same circumstances. The temporary will be rescinded.
Yeah, it was a denial for extension.
So we need a vote to rescind the last order.
vote.
Yes, yeah, we'll have to rehear the vote or rescind the vote and retake it.
Okay, and this is to allow a continuance of their case.
Yeah, yes.
So do I hear a motion? I can't make motions. Motion to rescind?
Motion to rescind.
Need a second?
We have a second motion to rescind so that we may
I'll second it.
re-deny. Okay.
I'm not supposed to be making
Kyle,
motions and
second.
seconding. As the chair.
All right. Jim, what is your vote to rescind, to rehear the vote?
To allow continuance.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And Ron?
no.
Uh,
We gotta still make it go, right?
Well,
Oh, yes, I mean.
yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, so the vote has been rescinded. Now you're wishing to re-vote to deny the extension, but this vote, your intention is to
Allow the
allow the
continu-
continuance of the case.
Right, so the
Okay.
next month they can come.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Ron? Okay,
Second.
who's second?
Second.
Ian? Okay, Kyle?
Yes.
Yes. And Ron, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, so the vote was to deny the extension
And then to
and
continue.
to, in effect, continue the case.
Right.
So,
Here, March 8th or whatever the next.
yes, I believe that March 8th was the next possible meeting, but, okay.
And then you're gonna talk to.
Yes, I'm gonna hear both. I'm gonna speak with both of you guys.
If anything they need to come up with by March 8th.
Yeah, I'll speak with both parties here directly after this meeting to begin with, and then we'll go from there. So, all right.
With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Motion is adjourned.